The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said between Nuh and Ibrahim is 10 generations. So what does that mean? Is it 1,000 years? But Nuh himself, Prophet Nuh himself, lived over 1,000 years himself, or at least close to 1,000 years, because he gave dawah for 950 years. He didn't give dawah from birth, so obviously he was born, so there's years there. And he didn't die at the flood. He lived after the flood, right? So he may have lived close to 1,000 years. So if that's a generation, and now the question is, did people always live that long? Was he unique amongst the people? And there is a saying of ulama that there is only a set number of people who are the mu'ammirin. Not most people live 100 years to maybe 200 years, right? But 100 years, 150 years, or even less. And only few people actually lived hundreds of years. So that the generation, it wouldn't have been everyone living 1,000 years, right? It would only be a few people. And that's possibly closer to the... Now, one thing you're going to keep in mind here is that your idea of a human being, it has to be expanded. And we actually are expand our idea of a human being far more than the naturalists. The naturalists are people who believe that these laws of physics, that's the only thing that could exist. And we say, no, not at all, right? Just because you haven't seen something doesn't mean it can't exist. And it doesn't mean we're going to believe it either. We need transmission for it, sound transmission. But human beings can be very different at different times. Their height could be different. They could be taller. They could be shorter. Like Neanderthals were, on average, very short. And their heads were very big, relatively, to the regular person that we see today. And they were considered, like, their bones were much stronger. At the end of the day, they mated with humans. So they are humans, right? And the anthropologists, they don't classify them as a different species. They just put them as a different subset of humans. Well, what's the line to make Neanderthals a subset of humans? I mean, an African and Japanese, they're completely different looking, size, everything's different. Like, where's the line? So for us, human beings, it's very broad. Humans could live hundreds and hundreds of years. That's possible for humans. And we have record for it from transmission. We don't need a record from the earth. Transmission is sufficient for us, right? If it's a sound transmission, we accept it. Human beings could be extremely tall. Umar ibn Khattab received a letter from the Sahaba who were in Persia. They said, we found a grave, a casket above the ground, intact human being inside of it. And he's like the size of 3 humans. Like, he's huge. And later in the series, you'll see which prophet that is, right? But they said he was huge, and they said he was intact. Like, the flesh was intact, the face was everything was intact. As we know, prophets, they never get eaten or chewed up. So you have to broaden your horizon in this whole series that we're going to study, that what is possible for Allah to do is vast. I mean, you have a human who sat in a fire and didn't get burnt. And that didn't just happen once. So the miracles of prophets are often inherited by their followers. And we're going to see parallels where Ibrahim alayhi salam, something happens to him, it happens later to his followers. Something happens, for example, to Sarah, the wife of Ibrahim. You'll see it happens later at the end of the Jewish lineage. The same exact thing happens to her. So things like this, yet we are not naturalists. We don't limit what could exist to what we've seen in the last 300 years. Not at all. It's miracles to us is not even a big deal. It's just how Allah chose to create something in a unique way. What's amazing to us about it is that it's an indicator that Allah loves us. It's an indicator that Allah cares for us. And it's something we never expected. And that's why we're amazed by it. But theologically and in reality, everything is kun fayakun. Whether Allah gives you satisfaction through eating or He just creates a satisfaction directly in your stomach, it's all kun fayakun. Right? If you have an empty stomach, we take asbab to fill it and be happy. Or Allah could just make you feel happy on the spot and make you feel full on the spot. It's the same to us. And it's amazing how some Muslims have doubts on this and modernism. I wonder, what do you believe about the afterlife then? The whole afterlife is a whole nother physics than this life. So if you're having trouble believing in a miracle, and I don't know if you're, well then, do you believe in the afterlife, where you're gonna live as a mature youth, like 33? That's neither fully mature nor are you still a kid, right? That's like the perfect age, 33. You're still young, but you're mature and strong. You're gonna be that age for eons. A billion years will pass, and it's nothing. You still haven't changed. There will be no gray hairs, no white hairs, no lost teeth. You won't sweat any bad odors. You'll never go to the bathroom. You'll never sleep. And you're a human being, right? So if a person doubts these things, you might as well doubt the whole afterlife then, right? Another thing to note is that the Prophet ﷺ said Ibrahim was the first one to get gray hairs. So here you have from Adam alayhi salam to Ibrahim's time, no one's getting gray hairs. Everyone's hair is black or colored, whatever the color was. And some have analogized, they also didn't get wrinkles. They also didn't get poor eyesight. They also didn't get their teeth fall. Why would they make that qiyas? Because your hair comes out of your skin. So if your hair is fresh, then the skin is fresh, right? If your skin is fresh, then what's deeper than the skin? The teeth and the eyes. So if if the Prophet's telling us the hairs didn't get white, and the hair is on the outside, it's not even living, it's not even alive. So it has to be that what's the hair is based on is also fresh. So they said people didn't live 950 years. And in today's world, by the time you're 55, 60, you may have wrinkles and you look like an old man. So now you think that he's going to live as an old man for 900 more years? That's like punishment, right? To look like an old man for 900 years is punishment. No. So according to this, that's another difference in how we perceive the creation of the human being, is that they didn't age in the same way that we age. They live hundreds of years, never getting black hair, perfect teeth, good eyesight, and great skin. And now you realize now that that's worth it, that to live all that time. If you're going to live as an old man, there comes a point where says life is not even worth it. I'm not attractive. There's a famous Arab poet. He was asked to describe old age. He said, it's when you're healthy, you're sick, right? Like in your good day, you still feel miserable. That's what he meant. He said, when you try to go to sleep, you can't fall asleep. When you try to stay awake, you fall asleep. You go to the bathroom on yourself like a child, okay? But you still have desires on the inside. You still desire the opposite gender, but they don't desire you, right? So he said it's torture all around, right? It's punishment all around. And so the early people didn't have this. Later on, as the lifespans became shorter and the time from heaven became longer, now we're entering in like thousands of years since Adam was in heaven, then people needed something to make them hate the dunya because they forgot. Like the reality that we're leaving and going back to heaven, it's faded. So they needed something to remind them of death, basically like a cheat thing, a reminder of death, and something to make you hate the dunya. And that's the function of old age. So you start to lose your teeth, you start to lose your hair, you start to get white hairs, you start to be miserable all the time. It makes you hate the dunya, and it helps you. You don't commit sins. You can't commit sins, right? And there's no one to commit sins with you, right? So this is a way Allah helps people prepare for their day of judgment. All right, let's go really quickly on the history, right?
You might want to, but you can't.
I know. It doesn't make a difference. You know, there was a man that offended and lied about Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas in Kufa. He lied about him directly and openly and spread a rumor about him. That rumor reached Umar bin Khattab, right? Terrible rumor. So Sa'd, you know, he's Mujab al-Dawah. One of the unique things about Sa'd, he's a Mujab al-Dawah. And he said that he got up and he stood up, and the man said, defend yourself in front of the whole masjid in Kufa. And Saad said, my defense of myself is, may Allah make you live long, live poor, and keep your desires in you. That's like torture, right? He's going to live a long life. You're going to be poor, but you still have desires. You still want, you want wealth, you want food, you want status, you want women. But you're old and poor, you can't have it. So it's punishment. He said, that's my answer to you. And we'll see. And he left, went to Medina. Right. So that man, I think it was one of the female Sahaba, they were saying that that man was recorded to have lived a long life in Kufa, and to have his eyebrows grew so big and his skin became so wilted, they wilted over his eyes. If he wanted to see, he needed to lift his forehead like that. And that he was extremely poor and dirty, but he would still chase after the young women, right? That's punishment.